Hi, everybody. This is your old pal, Uncle Hondo, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on Sports Illustrated. Great to be with all of you today. Welcome to Miami, where today the Raiders hope to get back on track with a new look. Remember this, it's going to be fascinating. There are a lot of different dynamics. Do they improve, get better in this Raider team's fight, or do they stay the team that's tied for the worst record in the NFL? To break it all down, our buddy, the editor and publisher of thespun.com, one of the best sports aggregating sites, kind of where pop culture meets sports. It's in my favorites. I read it every day, and he's one of my dearest friends in the whole world, the great Matt Halatic. Matt, how are you, bud?
I'm doing well. Always a pleasure to be with you on game day.
All right, let's dig into this, man. The Raiders, big changes, and they make them right at the beginning of the bye week. We had said that we felt if they went into the bye week 2-7 and there didn't seem to be improvement, there was going to be changes. We didn't call for anyone's job. We just knew there was going to be some holistic changes. There was. They did it quickly. Give me your thoughts of what the Raiders did and how they did it.
Well, I think that the main issue has been the offense, and I think that this is a hope to kind of jumpstart that and get the offense going. We talked about during the bye week pod of moving on from Luke Getsy and what that might entail, and I think it's just kind of a way to see if you have something to further evaluate the talent that you have. If maybe a different voice in the room and a different approach to play calling makes a difference. Gardner Minshew back starting today. We already have talked a lot about the Raiders quarterback situation. The future franchise guy isn't on the roster. So this is kind of just about, who gives you the best chance to win now, and also thinking about the future, not with Gardner Minshew really, but with maybe if a Desmond Ritter or an Aiden O'Connell is your backup beyond 2024. Listen, it's never a good thing for a team when they're making major coaching staff changes within a season, whether it's a coordinator, offensive line coach, or something like that, or if a team's firing its head coach, making the ultimate move, that's also not a good sign. It's never a good sign. Obviously when the Raiders, the last time they made the playoffs, they were able to get there with an interim head coach. Rich Bisaccia did a great job. So that's kind of what you're hoping for, that, you catch lightning in a bottle and whoever takes over is able to, give you that boost. But, more than likely you kind of see maybe a little bit of an uptick or just a little bit of a change. I think that's kind of what you'll see with the Raiders this time.
Matt, one of the things, and we talked about this on Wednesday's podcast, but one of the things that a lot of people are overlooking, the fact that they made changes says that AP is not willing to just stand tight. The fact that they made changes means Mark Davis was okay with it, and it means paying three more guys who are not here, paying them. It shows his commitment to winning now. And I gave, the players are bought in. The people that they brought in to replace them. I mean, you bring in Norv Turner, replace, you elevate Joe Philbin, who's one of the best in the game. So, I mean, they bring in three experienced, successful guys. They elevate them or bring them in. Those four things are great for the now. But the fifth reason for encouragement, and made some people laugh, was that, but even if it still doesn't work, you got the worst record in the NFL for the number one pick. Talk about that. There's both sides of the coin here, offer some optimism.
Well, the battle for the number one pick, or the battle for or top three picks, whatever, is as intense as the playoff battle right now. I mean, you look at the draft order. The Raiders are one of five teams with 2 wins going into today. The Jacksonville Jaguars and the Giants have the worst record combined at 2-8. Raiders, Titans, Browns, each 2-7. They've played one less game. So if the Raiders do lose today, they'll be tied with, or at least tied with the Giants. Giants have a bye. We'll see what Jacksonville does for the worst record. The Raiders need a quarterback. We know they need a quarterback. We know there's some other teams near the top of the draft, like New York, potentially both New York teams if they move on Aaron Rodgers, like the Titans, maybe the Browns, that need quarterbacks. So, it's not a quarterback heavy class. You could always see guys move up. You never know how the draft board shifts between now and April, but it's not like last year where at the very least you knew you had 3 studs near the top. And the surprises were that the 5th and 6th guys, Penix and Nix, made it into the first round, because everyone knew about the 3 guys and everyone had JJ McCarthy as the 4th guy getting into the first round somewhere. But the Raiders need a quarterback. And I think that I can speak from my own experience as a fan. I don't think any fan, to me, it's impossible during a game to root for your team to lose, like actively root. I mean, if the quarterback throws an interception, to cheer for that happening, or to cheer for, a missed field goal or a fumble or something like that. But I think when you look at the bigger picture, it does make the losing a little bit easier to swallow when you know there could be a reward at the end of the day. Now, I say that knowing that Raider fans have been through a lot these last 2 decades or so. It's just same thing in New York. I know I always bring it back to New York, but what Jets fans have gone through and what Giants fans have gone through the last, 12, 14 years or so. So the losing does get to you. But I think that if you're the Raiders, if you're a Raider fan, I should say, you want to see them continue to play hard, fight, be in these games. But if you don't win, I don't think you're throwing stuff at the TV, because I think that it may end up working out better for the franchise down the road, whether it's you're drafting a Cam Ward or a Shedeur Sanders or somebody else.
Matt, sorry about me. I blow my nose twice in this, but I've gone from Hawaii to Vegas to Chicago to Miami. I've been all over the place, and my body's like, what weather am I in? How do I adjust? So forgive me. I want to talk about Aaron Rodgers, because you just mentioned him, but he came out this week, said he is playing in 2025. Did that surprise you a little bit? You guys reported this.
Not surprised. If he doesn't play in 2025, he's not going to say that now that he's done. I mean, listen, it wouldn't shock me if he changed his mind and called it quits in the offseason, but it also wouldn't surprise me given his contract if he tries to play in 2025. That puts the Jets in a really interesting position, because they thought when they got him in the 2023 offseason, they were putting the final touches on a contending team. Now, they can't predict the Achilles injury, which obviously kept him out for his entire first season, and I think has impacted him this year. But when you look at watching him play, he doesn't look like Aaron Rodgers. And he's actually, and I know that he looked a little bit declined in his last year in Green Bay in 2022 when they missed the playoffs, but he still looked markedly better than he's looked with the Jets. Now, is some of that the Jets O-line, Jets coaching? Yes, of course it is. But Rodgers, the mobility isn't what it used to be. He looks to be, it's tough. I don't want to say afraid, because it's tough it's easy for us to sit here and say somebody looks afraid when they're out there putting their body on the line. But he does look hesitant to take a hit, or more cognizant of the pass rush, so to speak. He's thinking about where guys are coming, so he's trying to get rid of the ball. He's not throwing downfield. So listen, the Jets are in a little bit of a hard spot, because they're going to have a new coach. They're probably going to have a new general manager. So it's a new regime in New York. And what do they do with Aaron Rodgers? If the Jets are picking high in the draft and the new regime likes a quarterback, what do they do? Or even if they're not picking high in the draft, or they don't like a quarterback, what if they say, we don't want to deal with this guy anymore? We're going to eat the cap hit. We're going to do it and we're going to get a veteran stopgap or a trade or something else, to get through next season. That's a viable option, because I just think that the Rodgers experience it's just been a disaster for the Jets, and it's blown up in a way that few could have imagined it would blow up this bad.
Can we both agree Aaron Rodgers doesn't look like the Aaron Rodgers of old, but neither does Devontae Adams look like the Devontae Adams of old when he's not with the Aaron Rodgers of old?
It's true. The production has not been there. Garrett Wilson's production overall has been good, but he hasn't necessarily. There's been times where he's been a little bit disappears at times, or he doesn't have the numbers that you would expect. The Jets are not the sum of their parts. I think Damian Woody on ESPN said it best. They have a good roster. They don't have a good team. They're a collection of talented players that have resumes, and some of them are going to be in Hall of Fame, and some of them are going to be remembered as great players to all-time great players, but they don't have a culture, a team type bond. It's just a collection of guys thrown together. And the other thing that I haven't delved too far into this, but I've seen some people that I really trust that cover the sport talk about this. Schematically, the way that Aaron Rodgers played a lot in Green Bay and the way he prefers to play may not be the best way to play at this point in his career and with the personnel he has. He doesn't like a lot of motion. He doesn't like a lot of shifts. He likes things kind of static so he can read the defense and do things post-snap. And that might be making things harder on himself at this point.
I agree. By the way, Damian Woody is a guy that I covered in Detroit. I like him so much. Is he now? I think he's great on television. I can tell everybody he is a great guy. I loved covering him, had a great relationship with him. I really like Damian Woody. He's one of my favorites. I don't know why I told you that, but I did. All right. Shane Waldron is fired from the Bears.
Yes.
And thanks to the spun.com, I got to read something that blew my mind. Team players saying he got fired because he was too nice. Matt, stop the insanity.
He got fired because they had a bad offense and they have a rookie quarterback who is a hailed prospect and was the number 1 overall pick. And if they don't get this right, if they don't get this kid playing well, it's going to go down as a colossal failure. Because we're not talking about somebody who was drafted high and just was there was risk involved, like a Ryan Leaf or a Jamarcus Russell, someone like that. Caleb Williams was thought to be the number 1 overall pick for 2 years in college. Everybody was talking him up, not saying he didn't have flaws or saying there wasn't some things he had to work on. I don't think he was on the level of like an Andrew Luck as a prospect coming out, but there were a lot of people that were super high on him, thought that he had potential to be the next big thing, and thought that finally, after decades and decades, the Bears found a legitimate starting quarterback and a legitimate offense, and it hasn't materialized. They haven't scored a touchdown going into this week. I think 3 weeks ago when the Hail Mary game they lost was the last time they scored a touchdown. Caleb Williams has not looked – he hasn't looked nearly as good as Jaden Daniels, who's been the best rookie quarterback. And he's even struggled more than Drake May, who outplayed him last week. And that's not a great sign. I think some of it's on Shane Waldron. A lot of it's on Shane Waldron. Some of it's on the general manager, Ryan Poles, for the offensive line, a roster he put together. Same thing with head coach Matt Eberflus, who's on the hot seat. But I don't think he got fired because he was too nice. I think he got fired the same reason that most guys get fired in the NFL, because it's a production business. And if you're not doing the job, you're not going to keep it for very long.
All right. Last thing I got to talk to you about. I got 2 more things. And this is my weekly sign that the apocalypse is among us. A referee has been accused of rigging games for Taylor Swift. Now, I want to make it real clear. I don't believe this. I don't think you believe it, but it was a great story reported by The Spun. You got to tell everybody about this. This just makes me laugh.
Yeah, this is one of those things where, listen, anytime, but even if Taylor Swift wasn't dating Travis Kelce, anytime that the top the top team in the league, which the Chiefs are, two-time defending champs, anytime that they get a close call that affects a game and they win, you're going to get people complaining that the league is rigging it for the Chiefs. Well, going into last week's game at Arrowhead, Sarah Thomas, who's an NFL referee, met Taylor Swift, who was at the game, and apparently either asked for a picture or some type of FaceTime with her family to show her that she met Taylor Swift. And then there were some close, controversial calls in the game, and people were saying, this isn't the best look for a ref. Mm-hmm. It's going to be, people are going to be questioning professionalism. I don't think it had any impact on the game. But it is an interesting wrinkle because, like I said, the Chiefs have gotten the benefit of some close calls, and anytime a good team gets the benefit of close calls, whether it was the Patriots going back, you cover a lot of college basketball, so you think about Duke and North Carolina and teams like that. You always hear about, the refs are rigging the games for them. So I think that this was a pretty funny story. But it's something else, I guess, that people could throw out as a conspiracy, pro-Chiefs conspiracy.
I got to tell you, with what I do, I know so many NFL people. And some of them, as you know, I have tremendous friendships with. I mean, 4th of July, we went and spent a weekend with, some NFL people. My wife and I go to dinner with lots of them because my wife's friends with them and I'm friends with them. And I have those relationships. But they know and I know. I don't take gifts from them. I don't ask them for anything. When my wife my wife could be at any NFL game pretty much, maybe not all, but pretty much any NFL game she wants to go to any weekend, because we always have people, hey, if you guys need tickets, let us know. And we'll always call and say, hey, we need 2 tickets, but only if we can pay you for them. Not because we're not friends. There's just some things you don't do because even though you know you're not doing anything wrong, you don't even want the appearance of doing anything wrong. To me, I don't think she rigged it. I'm not saying she did. I just think it was a dumb move. And I think the NFL has to do something because you can't have, recently, I'll give you a recent one. I have one of my sons really loves a particular NFL player. And I texted him a picture of my son wearing his jersey. I said, and I thought you'd like this. And he laughs and he goes, why didn't you tell me? I'd have just given you a game worn one and autographed it. I responded, you know why. And he just responded, LOL. Okay. But there are some things you don't do, not because you're wrong or I'm wrong. You just don't do it because you avoid the appearance of impropriety, especially at the referee level. Am I wrong?
No, I agree. And I think that it's one thing if you see a celebrity who doesn't have a tie to either team at the game and you take a photo with them, even if they're a fan of one of the teams playing, as they're not connected to that team directly. But I think that I understand why she would want to meet Taylor Swift. I get it. But you got to be really careful because that type of stuff, anything can be used against you. Whether it's valid or not, you're giving ammo to people. So,
yeah. And, I'll give you if it was somebody there who isn't dating a player, isn't an owner, whatever, no issue with that. You got to be smarter. In fact, you know this because we've been friends a long time. I'm friends with several refs and retired, very successful NFL refs. And I just texted one of the NFL refs and I just said, thoughts? And I sent him your story and he just wrote back, stupid look. That's all he put. Mm-hmm. Stupid look. I thought that was interesting. All right. Micah Parsons comes out and says, I know how to fix the Cowboys. Now, let me say something. I'm not a Cowboy hater. I'm not a Cowboy fan. I got a lot of family and friends that live in Dallas. Uncle Jerry, Aunt Marlene, Nicole, love you guys, who are huge Cowboy fans. I am not one of them. I'm not really a fan. But their perpetual failure is so funny. I just love to send a picture of Stephen A. Smith looking around the corner to all my one of my best friends, Dean Martinez, who is an avid Cowboy fan. It's just fun to watch him. But this is they stumble over themselves. They are just fun to watch fail. But talk about your story on Micah saying, I can fix it.
Well, he specifically said he wants to build up the defense. He's like, they got some young stars, and he thinks they'll win more games and win championships holding teams to 20 or below. I guess as opposed to worrying about doing things offensively. I said this to my boss, who's a big Cowboy fan. Micah Parsons is a great player. He's one of the most talented defensive players in the NFL. He's done some phenomenal things in his first, 3+ seasons in the league. And I think that on the list of the Cowboys' problems, he's pretty far down. However, I will say this. It's not a good look to have one of your best players this openly talking about your team, other players and teams in the league, like he does on his podcast every week, hopping on Twitter. It's just not a great look, especially when you are when you play for the Cowboys. You're not talking about a team that kind of exists in relative anonymity. So you can kind of hide behind that stuff or whatever. You're talking about the Cowboys. Every single thing they do, good or bad, is going to get scrutinized. So now you have, and this is the first time in 4 years that they've been actually bad. The last 3 years they've been good, 12-5 every year, but just failed in the playoffs. Now they're legitimately bad. They're a mess. Dak's out for the year. McCarthy's probably getting fired. So you have all this stuff, people piling on and examining every single issue. And it's bad enough, I think, when Jerry Jones is as open as he is, and we know that's not changing. He's going to go on the radio every week. He's going to talk and do and whatnot. Now you have your best players saying this stuff, and I think it's just one of those things that if you're a Cowboy fan or if you're somebody that works for the team, you're probably thinking, like, this isn't the best thing for us. Like, there's nothing you could do about it at this point, but you're probably like, I wish this guy didn't have his podcast, or maybe he only kept it to the off season and didn't do it every week after we play and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. I'm not friends with Micah. I've been around him 3 times. I have found him to be incredibly warm, very open. And there's a couple times where I thought, wow, I'm surprised he said that. Not because he said anything wrong. I was just surprised, being the best player on the Dallas Cowboys, that he would but I like him. I like it. I hope it doesn't stop. I wish every player had a podcast, and I love it, and I think it's great. Matt, tell everybody, where can they find you on X?
You can find me at Matt Hladik 919, at MATTHLADIK 919. I'm on there all the time for work, and I'm on there on Sundays, so talking ball. So just come find me.
Follow him. We'll see you later.